Beningbrough Hall stands amid the peaceful countryside of the Vale of York, surrounded by parkland, mature trees and 8 acres of gardens. From a distance, the hall has a dignified but restrained appearance. Its symmetrical red brick exterior is handsome rather than extravagant, giving little indication of the elaborate Baroque craftsmanship waiting inside. The present hall was completed in about 1716 for John Bourchier and his wife Mary. John had unexpectedly inherited the Beningbrough estate at the age of just 16. His marriage to the wealthy Yorkshire heiress Mary Bellwood later gave the young couple the means to replace the family's older Tudor house with something much grander. The new Beningbrough Hall was intended to demonstrate the Bourchiers' wealth, stability and position within Yorkshire society. Construction was overseen by the Yorkshire-born carpenter and architect William Thornton. The exact origins of the design remain uncertain, but Thornton and his craftsmen created one of the region's finest surviving Baroque houses. Its relatively simple exterior was combined with a much rich interior, influenced by English, French and Italian styles. Some of the craftsmen employed in Beningbrough were French Huguenots who had settled around York after fleeing religious persecution in France. Their skill can still be seen in the finely carved woodwork, decorative door cases and columns and architectural details found throughout the hall. The most impressive feature is the magnificent cantilevered staircase. Sometimes described as a floating staircase, it appears to rise without the usual supporting columns beneath it. The initials and coats of arms of John and Mary Bourchier were incorporated into the staircase and surrounding woodwork, ensuring that visitors understood exactly who had created this fashionable new house. Parts of the earlier family home were not entirely lost. Sections of older panelling were reused within the new building, preserving a small physical connection with Beningbrough's Tudor past. Today, some of the rooms may appear quite sparsely furnished compared with other country houses. However, this allows the proportions of the rooms and the quality of their decoration to be seen more clearly. The building itself is the main exhibit, with its staircase, plasterwork and carved interiors telling much of Beningbrough's story. The Bourchier family had already experienced considerable political danger before the present hall was built. An earlier Sir John Bourchier became a prominent supporter of Parliament during the English Civil War and was one of the men who signed the death warrant of King Charles I. Following the restoration of Charles II in 1660, those associated with the execution of his father faced punishment. The Bourchier family came close to losing Beningbrough, although Sir John's son Barrington had supported the restoration of the monarchy. The estate remained with the family, allowing its fortunes to recover sufficiently for the present hall to be built several decades later. During the later 18th century, Beningbrough passed through marriage to the Earle family. Margaret and Giles Earle spent heavily while attempting to establish themselves within the Yorkshire society. Combined with the legal costs of securing the estate, their spending eventually led to bankruptcy in 1778. Beningbrough stood largely unused for several years while the family's creditors were paid. The Earls eventually returned and began investing in the grounds. The impressive walled garden was constructed in 1792 and remains one of the most attractive parts of the estate today. During the 19th century, Beningbrough passed to the Dawnay family, who introduced a number of modern improvements including electricity and a new kitchen. By the beginning of the 12th century, however, the costs of maintaining such a large country estate were becoming increasingly difficult to meet. In 1916, the widened Beningbrough estate was placed on the market, and the hall itself faced the possibility of demolition. It was rescued in 1917 by Enid Scudamore Stanhope, Countess of Chesterfield. Lady Chesterfield redecorated the hall and once again made it a comfortable family home. She and her husband entertained guests here throughout the 1920s and early 1930s. She was particularly interested in horses and established a successful stud farm. During the Second World War, the peaceful atmosphere of Beningbrough changed once again. The hall was requisitioned and occupied by servicemen connected with nearby airfields, including members of the Royal Air Force and the Royal Canadian Air Force. Lady Chesterfield moved temporarily to nearby Home Farm, while the grand rooms of the hall were adapted to wartime use. Following her death in 1957, Beningbrough passed to the government in lieu of death duties and was subsequently transferred to the National Trust. Outside the hall, the gardens continue to change and develop. They include formal lawns, herbaceous borders, mature trees, and the historic 2-acre walled garden, where fruit, vegetables and flowers are still grown. The gardens do not attempt to recreate one single moment in Beningbrough's history. Different generations of owners altered the landscape according to changing fashions and their own personal tastes. A long-term design by award-winning landscape designer Andy Sturgeon is continuing this tradition, introducing new planting while respecting the historic setting of the hall. Behind the formal gardens lies a wider parkland, once part of a much larger estate extending across thousands of acres. Today, Beningbrough is perhaps best appreciated not as a fully furnished stately home, but as a showcase of architecture, craftsmanship and changing tastes. Its calm brick exterior, elaborate staircase, lightly furnished rooms and evolving gardens each reveal a different part of its story. And more than 300 years after John and Mary Bourchier created their fashionable new home, Beningbrough Hall remains one of Yorkshire's most distinctive Baroque houses.